spijbelen van school of heb je vakantie? Ja, niet dat spijbelen? Dat komt later.
Welcome to our beautiful city of Amsterdam, and welcome aboard this unique canal cruise.
To make this journey as safe and pleasant as possible, please follow these rules of the boat. Please do not stand on the chairs or benches. The space behind the captain should be kept free of any objects. And whatever you do, please keep your arms and head inside the boat at all times. Some of the bridges are very low, and they come up suddenly.
In the case of an emergency, take a moment to note where the emergency exits are. There are two at the front of the boat, one to the left and one to the right, and another through the hatch door in the roof. This boat is equipped with life-saving equipment, and if an emergency situation arises, the captain will distribute them and give you instructions. Remember, this is a non-smoking cruise.
When you exit the boat, please check and double-check that you have all your belongings with you. Any questions? Your captain is here to assist you. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the cruise.
Welcome to Amsterdam, capital city of the Netherlands. What better way to experience this compact and very international city than from the unique perspective of its waterways? There certainly are a lot of them. This city has over 100 kilometers of canal. Amsterdam is known for being friendly, open-minded, and progressive. It's a popular place to visit and do business. Just think, in a population of only 800,000 people. Once exclusively used by the wealthy to walk and ride horses, it's now a free public park for all. The Dutch airline KLM's 1970s ad campaign to fly KLM, visit Amsterdam, and sleep in the Vondelpark attracted a lot of American hippies and helped change the park's image.
Just a short walk from the Vondelpark is Max Uberplein, a square honoring the Dutch world champion chess player Max Uber. It features a giant chess set and a chess museum. Weidsplein is also close by. Once an entry point to the city, it has long been loaded with hostels, theaters, and bars meant to welcome and entertain weary travelers.
What the Netherlands lacks in size, it makes up for in enthusiasm. The Dutch come from a small country, but this hasn't prevented them from making their mark on the world. Their curious nature and tenacity has been apparent since the Golden Age, when Dutch explorers sailed far and wide and set up settlements in faraway places like New Holland and New Amsterdam, which have since been renamed Australia and New York. As a people, the Dutch are eager to learn and have gained some international recognition in many areas, including DJs and music, ice skating, soccer, flower cultivation, water management, and ship and bridge building. The Dutch work hard to stand out from their neighbors while also embracing them. Most Dutch know at least 2 languages, often more.
Yeah, they are on holiday for the first time without their parents.
Staan vast. Telefoon. Kun je gewoon lopen. Ja, dus ik heb een keer gehad. Bij Frankrijk. Ja, ik weet niet.
We're now on the Leidsegracht, or Leidse Canal, a connector canal which cuts across the three main canals. Until the 18th century, house numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's religion, profession, or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller a windmill.
As we ride along the canals, keep an eye out for gable stones. There are more than 650 throughout the city. As you find them, you can challenge yourself by guessing what they might mean.
The wealthiest citizens, shipbuilders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herengracht. The Keizersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the three canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And so, the farther you lived from the city center, the lower your social class. Today, this would no longer hold true. All of the city center is expensive.
You see this huge office, the office or a huge building on the right. It's an old Palace of Justice, and it's they changed it into a very luxurious hotel. It will be a 7-star hotel. They are rebuilding it already for 2 years, and it's ready next year, they said. Ja, op een momentje, de onderuit komt door Leidse over de Keizerrichting. I was thinking about
Herengracht, or the Gentleman's Canal. It was part of a careful plan to expand the city. In the early 17th century, a time of tremendous physical and economic growth, 3 new canals were laid out in concentric rings. The Herengracht was innermost. The Keizersgracht, or Emperor's Canal, was in the middle, followed by the Prinsengracht, or the Prince's Canal.
The wealthiest citizens, shipbuilders, merchants, investors, and politicians built elegant mansions on the Herengracht. The Keizersgracht was solidly middle class, while the Prinsengracht had a more industrial atmosphere. Of the 3 canals, the Prinsengracht was the only one that connected directly to the harbor, and its low sides were designed for loading and unloading cargo.
And so the farther...
Where is the mouse? Who can find the mouse? I see the cat already above the window. Where is the mouse?
As we pass by these richly decorated canal houses, There's so much to notice. So many flourishes and details. Ornate door cases, sculptures, and of course the decorative gables at the roof line.
There are several different types of gables, and over the decades, they've gone in and out of fashion. See if you can spot them all. The oldest type is the spout gable. This basic triangular shape is seen only on warehouses. The 17th century step gable looks just as you'd expect, a series of steps. The neck gable, with its straight up and down sides and scrollwork decorations, came a bit later, followed by the bell gable, which has a more rounded, bell-like shape. By the 18th century, the cornice, a flat-top gable, was most popular.
There's one thing that all gables have in common: the hoisting beam. Staircases were so narrow and steep that furniture and goods were lifted to the upper floors via the hoisting beam, along with a good strong rope, a hook, and a pulley. Goods were generally stored up high to keep them dry during the city's frequent floods. There's a strong tradition of moving things this way, as even newly constructed houses have narrow...
Numbers didn't exist in Amsterdam. Instead, people relied on gable stones. These carved and sometimes colorfully painted stones were set into a house's facade, often above the door. Pictures made reference to the occupant's religion, profession, or their family crest. For example, a butcher might have a picture of a lamb, a dentist might have a tooth, a miller a windmill.
I'll pause the audio guide for a moment, because on the right, coming up, the Heineken sign in the white camera, that's the second smallest house of Amsterdam. There's even one smaller, 2 Canals away, but this one is quite narrow. People had to pay tax by the width of the house, so the wider the house, more tax, more windows, more tax, higher staircase, more tax. These people didn't want to pay tax.
T'as vu, Émilie?
Is dat een deur?
Des plates pointus.
Nee, moet je contract kunnen keren. Waarschijnlijk kost dat ook niet.
This guy didn't want to open a bookshop, he wanted to open a bar, but he wasn't allowed. He didn't get a permit because there were too many bars in the neighborhood. That's why he opened a bookshop, and with every book you buy, you get a beer or wine.
This is the Bartolani House, designed by Hendrik de Keyser, Amsterdam's most famous architect of the time. It was built for a very successful beer brewer named Willem van de Heuvel. He changed his name to Bartolani to honor an Italian relative who had left him a sizable inheritance. The facade has 2 inscribed panels that reflect Bartolani's and many other 17th century businessmen's values. They read, through talents and diligence, and through piousness and virtue.
Homes like Bartolani's were designed to showcase their owners' enormous riches, and yet, this was a time when Calvinistic views But all older buildings were still made of wood, and Amsterdam experienced one of its biggest fires along the Keizersgracht during the 18th century. Today, the risk of fire persists. Even though reinforced concrete is used for new construction, many of the older houses still have their original wooden skeletons. This canal was part of the city's 17th century expansion. It connects the 3 main canals, the Herengracht, the Keizersgracht, and the Prinsengracht, and used to form the northwest border of the city. With its arched bridges, many houseboats, and beautiful architecture, it's now one of the most picturesque waterways in the city.
But that wasn't always the case. Many of the industries banned from residential areas ended up here. That included the smelly ones, like leather and whale oil processing. And of course, beer brewing, which gave the Brewers Canal its name. Because water quality was so poor, people turned to beer as a safer, healthier drink. Only the rich could afford wine, which was imported, but everyone drank beer.
Many of the buildings you see are old workshops and factories or warehouses. Merchants originally stored goods in their houses, but as trade increased, more and more warehouses were built. See if you can spot some. Look for triangular spout gables and windows.
All right.
Passing through locks that were originally built to regulate Amsterdam's water levels and to keep the city from flooding at high tide. Nowadays, locks and dams further out have closed Amsterdam's harbor off from the North Sea, and city residents don't have to worry about tides. Instead, the locks are used to flush water through the canals, keeping them clean. Amsterdam replaces the gate every 50 years or so. If you look closely, you might find the date these gates were last replaced. It's recorded on the gates themselves. And no talk about transportation in Amsterdam would be complete without mentioning bicycles. You've probably figured out that they're Amsterdammers' favorite mode of transport. All around Central Station are places to park, from a huge multi-level bike parking area to a converted ferry filled to capacity with bikes. More people bike than drive to work, and it's estimated that the city has around 1.6 million bikes. That's more bikes than people. In typical Dutch style, the bikes are very practical. Single-speed coasters with foot brakes, sometimes with a crate in front for carrying everything under the sun, including children. In Amsterdam, expect to see everyone from the sophisticated business executive to the harried mother of three, humping away on a two-wheeler.
Central Station, the transportation hub of Amsterdam, is built on 3 artificial islands and is supported by around 8,600 wooden piles. The building was designed by 2 architects, Kuipers and Van Gent, and its front is really quite amazing. Made of red brick and white accents, it's a combination of Neo-Renaissance style and Neo-Gothic towers, and is called eclectical architecture.
instead concentric canals lined and crisscrossed by streets, some centuries old. Amsterdam has almost 100 kilometers or 60 miles of canals.
This early 20th century building is considered to be the first true example of the Amsterdam school style of architecture. The front of the building is impressively adorned with statues of Neptune, his wife, and 4 figures that represent the points of the compass. The building is decorated inside and out with all kinds of nautical symbols, anchors, ships, and famous Dutch mariners. It's now a 5-star luxury hotel.
Since then there hasn't been seen any ducks in the neighborhood. You see this huge office on the left on the corner. It's brand new, a year ago it opened. It's from booking.com. The green building is the Nemo, scientific museum for children. And more to the front, the white building is the Nautical Museum of
Is 15 meters, that's 45 feet, into the ground. But if these piles were exposed to the air, they began to rot, and the buildings they supported sank and shifted. Today, water levels in and around the city are carefully controlled.
Donc ça c'est le marché
Some happy too. These buildings get their crazy tilts from the wooden piles that are supposed to be holding them up. The more the piles rot, the wilder the houses dance. The outward lean that you see on so many buildings is another secret. It has nothing to do with rotted piles. The facades, or the faces of buildings, were intentionally built this way. In fact, a 16th century law put limits on how far a building could lean forward, lest it topple down.
Yeah, we call them the gay houses as well because they're not. The only one which is straight is the Irish one. Claude Monet, the famous French painter, he lived for a while in Amsterdam. He made some beautiful paintings. One is about this canal on the left with the church theme, and it's worth more than $1 million. So now you can see the same view for what do you pay? 120 euros. Good deal.
So now you can see the same view for what do you pay? 120 euros. Good deal.
So now you can see the same view for what do you pay? 120 euros. Good deal.
Okay.
Magere Brug, otherwise referred to as the famous Skinny Bridge, stretches all the way across the Amstel River. Of Amsterdam's 1,500 or so bridges, this is the most famous. It dates back to the 17th century and was likely a narrow footbridge. Since then, it's been reconstructed more than once.
The Skinny Bridge in a moment for eternal love. What do you want me to do? Speed up or?
C'est plus de fond de ça. Le feu il est rouge quand il passe.
Hotel, where a honeymoon suite rents for 3,750 to 6,000 euros a night. This was the first building in Amsterdam with electric power when it was built in 1868.
The city now has around 2,500 of them. Some are old converted sailing vessels. Others are simply homes set on floating pads. As for cheap, not anymore. Houseboats are now connected to gas, water,